It's time to get serious about your financial future. It's never too early, but it could be too late to get started. And that's oftentimes the hardest part, getting started. How much do I save? Where do I invest? Do I save for college or retirement? How much for each? And who do I talk to about it all? Okay, we'll keep things simple for now and help you answer the last one. We recommend you begin with a local financial advisor, and that's Jennifer Johnson of Three Magnolias Financial Advisors. She'll sit down with you for a complimentary introductory consultation and go over all of your questions. Get started on the path to achieving your financial goals. Visit threemagnoliasfinancialadvisors.com or call 336-701-1600. Get comfortable with your financial future. Three Magnolias Financial Advisors, retirement, financial planning, and investments. Securities offered through Private Client Services, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Three Magnolias Financial Advisors. Three Magnolias Financial Advisors and Private Client Services are not affiliated. Private Client Services is under separate ownership from any other named entity.
This is the Triad Podcast Network.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another real estate episode with Blake Ginther from the Ginther Group here in Winston-Salem. Blake never fails. We get a chance to record during a major golf tournament, just as we did last month when we were talking about the Masters. Now we get to talk about the PGA Championship right here in the state of North Carolina.
I love it. First of all, I mean, obviously people know from if they've ever listened to this, they know that I do indeed love golf.
Mm-hmm.
I actually offered a couple tickets, and I think we're doing a giveaway for a couple other tickets on my team's site. I can't go because I'm actually going to be playing in a golf tournament.
Not the PGA Championship, to be clear, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
No, I am not a good golfer. So I enjoy golf though. I do enjoy it.
We're all terrible at golf. It's just to what degree?
Yeah. I think my friends call me a sandbagger, which is a compliment. That means that I take their money sometimes.
Yeah.
But that doesn't make me a good golfer.
That means you fudge your handicap.
I don't, for the record, at all. I just make putts and they don't. That's all it comes down to. That's golf.
Yeah.
That's golf.
Drive for show, putt for dough.
Exactly. By the way, my golf swing is hideous. It's truly one of the ugliest things you've ever seen.
Yeah. So it's played at Quail Hollow, which is a country club, correct?
That's right. A very private, very beautiful country club.
What are you've probably sold your share of homes in country club neighborhoods. What are some of the pros and cons to living or seeking out a home in that type of setting?
Well, I've always said one day I'll have a house on a golf course. I love the idea of walking out my house and right onto a golf course. I think that's awesome. And so there's obviously that pro for sure. And not having to think about having to go out to eat, because you can just literally walk or drive your golf cart to eat whenever you want. And that's lovely. I think some of the cons might be that there's always a little bit of inner club drama, right? It's a smaller community where everybody seems to kind of know everybody's stuff, and the keeping up with the Joneses which is because of social media already such a prevalent thing, is even more so in a club like that. But I would say, based on your personality, if you are I don't care and I don't have to, I'm not a keeping up with the Joneses type, then it won't impact you and you'll love it.
Yeah, you'll just enjoy the things that are great, which is the location and being right there. You ever hit a house when you're playing?
I mean, I'm not going to say I've never hit a house. Fortunately, it has been a long time since I've hit a house. But now that I said that out loud, I'm going to hit a house this weekend.
When you play in this tournament, yeah, beware. We're not going to give away where you're playing or where some homes might be in danger, but it could happen. I feel like there's a good transition, a good segue into that question, into one of the things we're going to talk about today, right? Which is home insurance.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. I before we hit this, and Adam, your voice when you started this podcast was not your usual jovial self, because I ruined Adam's spirits with a little bit of, as I said right before we click record, I say this to my kids all the time, right? Like, life's about expectations, right? Life's about properly set expectations. So I'm not trying to make people moody when I tell you this. I am, however, trying to reset expectations for anyone who has not had their insurance come up this year yet. I mean, it is May, so I would imagine more than half of you haven't yet.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, prepare yourself. Insurance is in most cases up 15 to 25%. And Adam went, really? Taxes and insurance? And
We just talked about taxes not that long ago in
yeah,
Forsyth County. Those are going up.
yeah, yeah, yes. So in short, yes, really, insurance and taxes. And insurance is pretty simple. I don't want to go too deep into the weeds of why insurance, but essentially reinsurance last year took a bath, right? These people insure it, and then they have these reinsurance companies that, I mean, they're for profit. And when natural disasters specifically hit in a condensed area more than once, the amount of reissues and rehits within the insurance, and the amount of just budgetary misses, right, it was record astronomical last year between the fires, the hurricanes. I mean, we had some crazy natural disasters,
The floods. Yeah.
floods. I mean, it was crazy, right? Between North Carolina, California, and Florida, there was a lot of crazy natural disasters that impacted a lot of people. So reinsurance lost. Well, guys, they're in the business to make money. So when they lose a year prior, what do you think happens the next year? Everywhere.
Yep. Everything goes up.
So,
Yeah.
so all of our insurance,
everything's more expensive, and insurance is no exception.
and I mean, unfortunately, as we said before we clicked record, for most of us, myself included, right? For most of us, we're not going to be making more money this year than we made last year. And we didn't make more money, most of us, last year than we did the year prior. And yet, right. And so, hence, the feeling of when the government tells us inflation is coming, is softening or correcting, we go, really? I don't feel that way,
Mm-hmm.
and it's because of things that are out of our control. Like, we got to have insurance. You don't want to not have house insurance and or car insurance. That's illegal. So in taxes, yeah, well, the city's got their budgets.
Yeah. And so I got to imagine there's a lot of people that are going to react the same way that I did, which is I already found out a couple months ago that my taxes are going up. And now, I mean, I wouldn't say I'm finding out, but I'm coming to grips with the idea that my insurance premiums are going to go up. So that escrow payment is going to be a lot higher.
Yeah, and I think, and look, I'm not you have a financial guru. I'm not attempting to step into those shoes. That being said, in real estate, I do find that we often are talking about people's greatest assets, and therefore a big part of their financial future. I would prepare people, right? They've already prepared for, the cost of groceries, even though politicians ran on them, haven't really changed. I haven't noticed a change. I don't anticipate they will. And I think that the cost of insurance going up and the cost of taxes going up, I don't anticipate that being a thing consistently, right? But it is a thing this year, and therefore people, like, I will tell you, earlier this year, my wife and I had the conversation of, hey, so vacations, vacations for 2025 probably need to look a little differently than they did in 2024 and 2023 and 2022.
Yeah. I mean, you're not saying anything surprising. We've already pulled back on a Memorial Day trip that we were planning to take. It's not a smart decision for us right now. And I got to imagine a lot of people are having those same conversations. But you're right. This is not a financial or a budget type of conversation that we're having. We'll do that with Jennifer Johnson. But what's the real estate impact on people knowing that it's going to cost me more to pay for insurance on a home.
It's a perfect segue right into the real estate update, because there's a direct correlation to what we're discussing to the real estate market, because there are less buyers, right? There are less buyers. Adam, your situation's a perfect example. We've talked, it's been years, right? But we've discussed the potentially you guys might want a different home for your family. A different home might work better. Well, based on certain financial situations, right? Your interest rates, and interest rates combined with the cost of other things and just the cost of moving, it just doesn't make sense, right, for you guys. And that's true for a lot of people. So the move up market is skinnier than it's been in a long time. Fortunately, right, for our market, and for sellers in our market, there are more people moving to North Carolina, specifically the Triad, than moving away. Like, we're super lucky in that regard. That being said, the buyer pool is skinny. And real estate agents, and everyone is playing the world's smallest violin. They can't see me, but I'm playing a very, very small violin. Real estate agents are going to have to work harder to achieve the same amount of results. We just are. And Forsyth County is one of the only counties that has had more sales this year than last year. Davidson County is down 7%, and Guilford County is down double digits, I think 12% in sales, just sales, total sales. And that, most people didn't predict that. Most people thought because we had such a record low that we would end up with more sales in 25 than 24. I don't think that's necessarily going to be the case for all the things we're discussing, right? And that's okay. Most people find themselves in a very good position from an interest rate, total mortgage payment, and an equity position. Side note, I had my first experience. People who listen to this podcast, I beat the home equity line of credit drum to open it and just leave it alone. Open it, leave it alone. We had our first situation this year, and really in years, where a seller had bought the home in 2 years, opened up an equity line, lost their job, tapped equity line, they're underwater.
Oh no.
First time in years. And so I do want to say, I'm not Jennifer. I'm not anti Ramsey, Dave Ramsey. However, some of his stuff does make sense, right? And this is one of those, like, he is anti-home equity lines of credit because he doesn't ultimately think people can be trusted. Basically with free money, with open lines. Hence why he doesn't believe in credit cards. Now, I think we educate, and the majority of people will make the right decision. That's my perspective. But I do want to put it out there in the show, while I'm being doom and gloom and talking about rising costs, that home equity lines of credit for improvements and getting with agents sooner if you do have a job loss, right? If you do have a tragedy in a family situation where income has changed, most people are sitting on a lot of equity. And, we don't want to move from a house we love to a house we might love less, but it might make a lot of financial sense to do that sooner than later. Because these people, I think, waited a year to have the conversation with us, and in that year put themselves in a pickle.
Yeah. That's a sad outcome, but it's a real outcome. You mentioned life is about managing expectations or setting expectations. I tell my kids a lot that a lot of things in life are about moderation. I tell them, hey, yeah, you're not going to eat healthy all the time. You're going to eat cookies and cake and ice cream. It's in moderation. It's okay. You can have a soda every once in a while. Just, it's in moderation.
Yep.
And that's also what I think about credit cards and debt and home equity lines. It's moderation.
Totally.
These things are okay. They're not, it doesn't have to be a black and white.
That's right. They're not good or bad, right? It's moderation. Yeah, absolutely.
Correct. Yeah. It's moderation, which is another way of saying just being responsible with it. Right.
And I should say, honestly, just to touch really quickly, because it is a real estate podcast, right? Touch really quickly. honestly, man, our market is like boringly the same. Every week,
It
we
always
sell
is. It always
boringly the
is.
same. Every week we sell 10% of the inventory, and we've gone from mid 800s to low to mid 900s. So it's a little unusual that we've added inventory per se, maybe in the last couple of weeks. Usually this is when a lot of buyers come out of the woodwork. But there are a lot of buyers across the country who are struggling to sell. If they're coming from Florida, if a buyer is coming from Florida, there's a high probability they're struggling to sell. Florida, Texas, Arizona, some of our typically hottest markets are in a softer market. Randomly, by the way, if they're coming from up north, they're stronger markets.
It's like you said earlier. We are fortunate to be in a location, and especially if you work in the real estate business, you are fortunate to still be in a location that people are trying to move to instead
Yep.
of away from. And you mentioned some of those areas that people are struggling to sell their home if they're trying to move somewhere different.
Springtime brings so many special occasions, so why not spring into Dewey's for all your celebration needs? From custom, unique cakes to balloons and party tableware to the perfect gift, Dewey's is your one-stop shop in the Triad. Even if you don't have a big event on the horizon, it's always a great day to stop by your local Dewey's Bakery, especially on Mondays for a free Cake Square Day. No purchase necessary and available all year round at any of their Triad area locations in Winston-Salem at Thruway Shopping Center and Renolda Manor, and in Greensboro at the Friendly Shopping Center. Need to place that order now? Visit local.deweys.com, and as a listener of the Triad Podcast Network, you'll receive 25% off by using the code PODCAST. Our friends at Dewey's are always finding great ways to give back to our local community, providing millions of dollars to nonprofits. Your organization can also partner with Dewey's to raise money. Just email cake@deweys.com to learn more. Don't miss the chance to make your event even more special with an order at local.deweys.com. Use the promo code PODCAST for 25% off. Dewey's. Celebrate every day.
Any other impact that you're seeing, from a real estate sense in terms of higher insurance rates, people struggling more financially, or just seeing that the cost of everything is impacting what they do? Maybe more people are turning to home equity lines. We opened one just not too long ago. Yep. Shout out to our friends at A Legacy. We opened our home equity line with them, and we haven't touched it yet. We're just sitting on it, but it's there. Do you think it's a wise decision? Maybe this is putting too much pressure on your opinion here, but do you think it's a wise decision? Let's say somebody is in a situation where everything in their life is more expensive. Their income is not increasing parallel to their cost of living right now. And they're thinking, we can't afford to be in this house anymore. And maybe they sell to downsize, but maybe they're sitting on a bunch of equity and they think, well, I could sell. We could take all that equity we have as cash, and we could just rent for a little while we get back on our feet.
Man, that is tough. I think if there's job loss or sadder, right, or worse for a family, elimination of income, let's just put it that way. Potentially renting for a year to see what the future looks like for people could be an option. And the rental market has softened. So, there are more options, and rents. If landlords are starting to be a little whiny because they can't get the COVID rents that they were getting without making improvements or just dropping. So I do think, that I'm not a pro rental guy for obvious reasons, but honestly, financially in our current environment, it's still not the best situation. That being said, if insecurity with income is a real thing, then, and they have equity and they can trust themselves to live fiscally responsibly and primarily just keep that money in a savings account, selling might make sense. It's funny, I literally had this conversation with my 13-year-old because he asked, why a family member basically had to uh, almost short sale a vacation home a couple years ago, um, before the market went bananas. And I said, buddy, they got themselves in a pickle, and that I said, you know, the only way people lose in real estate. And he said, and he rattled off a bunch of things. I'm like, that's all. Those are all great things, but really no. The one way you lose in real estate is having to sell at a particular time that is not advantageous to you. That's the only way you lose in a boringly 4% average over the last 130 years. So, I mean, our market isn't great right now, but it isn't bad. And if you are sitting on a ton of equity, yes, you can absolutely sell and get a better number. People were going, well, can I get a better number next year? I would say probably not, honestly. I'm not seeing a trend that would tell me that the real estate market will be better next year than it is this year. I'm not seeing a trend that says it will be significantly worse either. I think we're looking at a couple stagnant years economically and in real estate.
What would have to happen for it to get to a significantly better place 12 months from now?
Some bad things economically.
Yeah. A pandemic.
I mean, it would have to happen, where they now have to pull the lever after pulling back on the inflation lever for the last several years, to the point where it still doesn't really feel that better. It still doesn't feel that better. You know, they then over the next 6-9 months, we would have to, and by the way, there are things, and we've all felt this, like, rocky road the last couple of months, where that could happen, right? And that's where I think people go, but I wouldn't count on it. And there's such stability in our markets. There's still such low inventory. There's still too many indicators that would make it hard for me to see, even if politicians mess it up, we're still in too good of a place that I think that will be much different next year. I don't see why rates would be below. They're in the upper sixes now. I don't see why they would be anywhere lower than the upper fives. And I'm not sure they'll be there.
Yeah. Appreciate you speak the truth, man. I know you're not telling people what they want to hear, but again, you are setting expectations.
I don't. Yeah, this is like grumpy one. I'm actually in a really good mood. I hate to deliver the grumpy news, and it is just, the waiting game is not a good idea. If you're waiting for a better market, that's not, and we're seeing that with buyers who've been kind of on the sidelines, and they're like, all right, forget about it. I don't anticipate much change in our world for at least 12, realistically 24 months.
Yeah. I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it. And I think the reasoning is there. The data would be there. And like we've already said, it would take something pretty drastic for things to change the way that people are hoping that they'll change if they are playing the waiting game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're at the end of the school year. What typically happens real estate market wise when we transition from school year to summer? Because we're about to hit that.
Well, realtors are all hoping that what usually happens doesn't happen, which is the real estate market slows down typically, for vacations but per what I just said, and I think a lot of families had that conversation. So I do think, while camps might be more popular this year, I think vacations will not be. Or just less expensive vacations, and perhaps not as long. So and it hasn't been a normal busting spring, right? Where we've had this 1 week, or where it's exploded. So for those reasons, I don't think we'll see that, like what usually was that mid to late June slowdown, and certainly July slowdown. I think that we'll probably see what we've seen the last 6 to 8 weeks, which is just the trickle.
Yeah. Do you think we'll see an uptick in people downsizing?
I mean, I do think that ultimately that's been the key, is that boomers still own 60% of real estate in America, and most of them have very little to no mortgage on their homes, and so they're sitting in a beautiful position. And frankly, the need has to be there in our current environment. It kind of always was until COVID, and now we're back in that need-based market, and most of them are soon, if they don't not already, have needs. They're living in it, like my parents still living in that home that has no main level living room with my mom and her 3 broken hips, and it's not an ideal scenario for them, right? So eventually they just gotta move.
Yeah. All right. We need something uplifting to talk about to
You want
close
to
this
talk about
out.
broken hips? By the way, I'm gonna have a hip replacement. I'm not even 45.
Oh no. Are you
Is that
serious?
not ridiculous?
I thought we were going to talk about something uplifting here.
Sorry. It will be uplifting when I have a new hip and it feels better.
Yeah.
And
You're going to be driving the ball 300 yards after that happens.
That's never been a thing, but maybe. No, how about the weather? It's gorgeous.
It is.
It's supposed to be beautiful after several days of rain. It's supposed to be beautiful this weekend.
Yep.
And we live in a place where we got this North Carolina blue sky. I mean, it's a beautiful place to live, Adam.
I've asked you this every time we talk during a major golf tournament because I want you to like nail your prediction so that I can clip the video and then just spread it across social media.
And every time I'm like way off.
Yeah. But I'm going to give you another chance here. We're about midway through the opening round of the PGA Championship. Give me your pick.
Quail is a long hitter's dream. And because of the weight of the Masters being off his back, I really did think it would be Rory. I have watched golf today, and he's not playing well, so it might not be Rory. But it's a longer hitter, and Justin Thomas is playing well, and Justin is a popular bet, and he has won at Quail. That'd be cool. I think if I had to pick a player, I guess I'd pick JT.
Okay. All right, man. I really hope that I get to clip this and share it because
I just cursed him. There's a 0% chance. 0% chance. Now
there could be an MC coming his way.
Dude, great catching up. And listen, if folks have any questions, by the way, our website, if their home value, they can go now and get some 3 quotes. Just go to theginthergroup.com, enter your address. We don't have to bother you, and you don't have to have us come out. If you're just curious where your value is, we're paying for this technology that I think is really good, much better than the home bot that lenders, in my opinion, use and other entities. So go there. You'll get 3 different quotes, and it's almost always the average of the 3 is pretty darn accurate.
I can attest to that because I use that service and we get it delivered to our email. I believe every month it comes in. So I always check it to see where that value is. And when we got our home appraised during the home equity process, spot on. It was cool. Spot on. So it works.
I'm not like this, I'm just old enough that I don't think AI is taking over the world, but situations like that, I'm like, dang it, these dang computers, they are good.
They really are. They really are. Yeah. I don't think AI is going to ever be able to help us save our golf games, but
no. Maybe replace my other hip.
There you go. It might do your hip surgery, but
yeah, eventually.
All right, Blake. So you gave them the website. How about the phone number if they want to give you guys a call?
Yeah, please give us a shout. 336-283-8689, 283-8689.
All right, my man. Hit them well this weekend.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for listening to this episode on the Triad Podcast Network. Our mission is simple: provide information, advice, and stories about the people and places that make the North Carolina Triad such a great place to be. You can find us by searching Triad Podcast Network on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, pretty much wherever you like to listen. If you like what you heard and want to support the show and those that contribute, we would truly appreciate a rating and review on your favorite podcast app. It helps spread the word along, as do your shares on social media. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram @Triad Podcast. To get in touch with us, simply email info@triadpodcast.com. Thanks for listening.
This is the Triad Podcast Network.